I awoke later to a setting sun and pounding head. I felt worse than I had the day after my best friend Max's wedding. God, I hadn't thought about him in a long time either. He'd been with me that day. I was certain. Did he remember any of it? My head pounded harder. Whatever I had done last night had really taken its toll. Repressed memories, or at least these ones, seemed to put up a fight. It was like picking at an itchy scab. I couldn't help it. Even if I knew, I would draw blood. I sat up and rubbed my eyes, then reached for my phone. It had only 1% battery left, and just before the screen went black, I saw that it was just after 9 p.m. I'd been asleep for just over 20 hours. I sat up slowly, trying to abate the pain in my head, and wondering if I'd hit myself on my way down to the floor the night before, or if I'd earned the headache by spending 20 hours passed out on the carpet. I felt my head for any bumps or scrapes, and when I found none, I gingerly brought myself to a standing position. I stretched and rolled my neck around, which helped a little, and padded over to the bathroom for some water and a leak. I'd forgotten about the face in the mirror the night before, until just before I'd finished my business. All at once the image flashed in my mind's eye, and I was thankful I'd already evacuated my bladder, because the thought of the events from last night may have done it for me. The mere memory of the woman standing in the mirror made my skin crawl all over again. Superstitiously, I washed my hands with my head bowed down, almost into the basin. I wanted nothing to do with the mirror. I closed the door for good measure, my mind still spinning around the events of the night before, wondering exactly what had been real. Was it possible that none of this was real? I didn't think so. The recently excavated memory of my little sister was real enough to tell me that I hadn't imagined that part. Or I was far crazier than I gave myself credit for if I had. I went into the kitchen, wondering if I had enough milk left for a bowl of cereal, or if it would be smarter to just leave the house, then stopped dead when I saw the fridge. The picture I'd ripped from it had been replaced, except there were deep scratch marks now all over it, and it wasn't alone this time. Dozens of photographs hung on the fridge, on the walls, on the cabinets, each containing a young child who couldn't be more than a year old, most of them younger than 6 months, and all were labelled in the same spidery way as the one I'd found in my closet, with the same name, Abby. Each photo had scratch marks blemishing the image, and I noticed, to my horror, that a large number of the pictures had round, jagged chunks ripped out of them. Someone had taken bites out of them. Bang, bang, bang! 3 loud bangs seemed to shake the whole house then, causing the pictures to flutter down to the floor like dead leaves. I whirled around, looking for the source of the noise, but knowing already where it had come from. The bedroom door, which I was sure I'd left open, had slammed shut. The bathroom door had as well, and I was sure that if I ever dared to go into the bedroom again, I would see that the closet door had also slammed shut. The lights then went off with a bright snap, and the darkness I'd wanted so badly to avoid the night before engulfed the whole house. I heard the crying before I saw her, the same desperate wail of an angry little girl, except this time it wasn't disembodied. At the end of the hall, standing in the darkness, was the shape of a little girl. She held something in her hands. I couldn't tell what, but something told me I didn't want to know. Her arms and legs moved in a strange, disconnected fashion, like each joint was made of elastic. I was frozen in fear, wanting to run but unable to move my legs from their place on the floor. She inched forward slowly, bringing whatever was in her hands up to her mouth, and as she got closer, I saw the shape of 4 fingers and the stump of a thumb protruding from a limp palm. It was an arm, but one too small and slender to have ever belonged to an adult. Standing behind her, tall enough to nearly reach the ceiling, was the dark shape of a woman. Its arms and fingers seemed too long to be human, or perhaps that was the dark, and with every step the girl took, the darkness behind her took another step. Seeing the girl there, and the woman behind her sent a shockwave of memory through my brain, so strong that it made the room spin. This is what happened to my sister. She'd seen this thing with its child, and they had gotten to her and taken her away. Max and I had tried to get her back, and had done something. What was it? El Pon. That's right. We'd burned the house down. After we knew my sister was dead, we burned the house down. We get her. We let her out. She was trapped in that house, and she'd found a way to manipulate my sister and later me into letting her escape. She'd Dorfa. It was then that I realised my thoughts weren't my own. Someone else had been finishing those sentences in a language I somehow understood, but didn't know. It was helping, making me remember. The thing standing behind the little girl was in my head. She had been looking for me for 4 long years, while my brain did everything it could to forget about her and lock the memories up tight. I turned around to the open door, to run out of the house screaming as if I'd lost my mind. Perhaps I had. But the door wouldn't budge. The knob twisted, but it may as well have been bolted to the wall. I could feel her, smell her, getting closer with every second. What had I done before? I couldn't remember. She wasn't letting me remember. I turned back around. The little girl and the thing behind her, Abigail and Teresa, were closer now. Teresa's long, bony fingers held out in front of them, leading the little girl like a puppet on a string. I'm coming. The words resonated in my brain, and I knew at once that it was the voice of my sister. I'm coming. I wanted to feel relief, but I knew better. The words were cold and stony, not so much offered for comfort, but perhaps a warning. I then saw a third shape emerge from the darkness. It was a young girl, 16 or so, and I knew at once it was my sister. Her brown hair, which was once so precious to her, was now matted and dirty, as if she'd just climbed out of a swamp. As she stepped out of the darkness, I saw with growing horror that she shared something very unique with the little girl gnawing on the forearm in front of her. She, too, had no eyes. I called her name, but she gave me no mind. Her movements were just like those of Abigail, rubbery and disjointed, but she approached me with surprising speed. Before I could act, she was on top of me, biting, scratching, clawing her way into my flesh with surprising strength. Darkness encompassed me, snuffing out any vision I had. Finally, the millions of signals that my brain was sending to the rest of my body worked, and I began to scream. I awoke in my bed to the sound of birds singing and the sun peeking through my window. It would have been the perfect morning, except perfect mornings seldom start covered in blood. It was in my sheets, my hair, under my fingernails, and none of it was mine. My injuries from the night before had seemingly vanished. The blood belonged to the little girl, or what was left of her, lying dead in the corner. This wasn't the same girl I'd seen the night before. This one is missing her left arm. Her body is covered in bite marks, except for a space on her left thigh, which seems to me to be worse. Carved deep into the muscle are 3 words: Ol Zir Oshna. Next to her lifeless body lay my photograph smeared in blood, and on the bottom corner, in thin, spidery handwriting, I can see the word Abi written on it. I called the police. I'm going to go to jail for this. Surely someone must, but I'm not sure that matters much. I'm not sure sparing my life, if that's what really happened, was as much of a blessing as I would have thought. I still had the memories, the ones locked deep inside my head, the instructions left to my sister, to me, which were all broken as we played games we didn't understand. If you're reading this, please, dear God, learn from my mistakes.